We're in the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, and I'm a partnerships manager here at AllVoices, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today, I'm excited to welcome our next guest onto the interview series, Alexandra Williamson. She is the CEO and co-founder of Asteya. Alexandra, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to speak with you, and I have so many questions, but let's start from the beginning. If you could tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, and be sure to include your pronouns, and would love to know, how did you answer the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, when you were younger?
Hi, so my name is Alexandra Williamson. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I grew up from childhood. I'm smiling because the question, what do you want to be? What did you want to be when you grow up? Takes me back down memory lane so much, and it's such a big deviation from where I've ended up. So when I was a kid, I grew up in both Alabama and Tennessee. And I was so infatuated with Audrey Hepburn. As a child, I found her to be one of the most incredible figures, I think, because I was always even as a child, very creative and wanted to act, but and be involved in the film world. But I was so fascinated with her as a humanitarian.
Mhm.
I thought what she was able to do with her, with what she had acquired in terms of recognition. She always focused on helping other people, and I found that as a young child, that was just such fuel and so interesting to me and fascinating. How much of her heart and soul she poured into helping people in need. And so that was really, I think, what I found so fascinating about that was being able to use the platform in a positive way. So I actually, from very early on, always wanted to be in film, and studied film in college, and I think that actually navigated my turn into brand building. When I got to Bumble, and when Bumble was first starting, I used my background in film and character building, writing. I thought of it as a character, the entire brand versus, I think the more traditional way of thinking of brand, and really wanted to create the world of Bumble, like in film, that would be like the mise en scène, like everything that was seen in front of the camera, like just how do you create a world that people engage with. And so I found that background really was something that helped me pivot over into truly thinking through how to build brands and how to engage with users and how to make customers feel.
I love that. I too am an Audrey Hepburn fan, and I love all of her movies, but also that she was a huge humanitarian as well. And you touched on this a little bit too, in terms of your kind of personal experience and background growing up in Alabama and Tennessee. But I always like to ask people, how do you think about your personal journey, and how has it really led you up until this point of founding Asteya and, being the CEO of the company?
Sure. So my background in Alabama and in Tennessee, I think that there was, for me, I had a really great and happy childhood. I think I always had a desire to like expand my horizons and travel, and so I haven't been back to Alabama except one time for a holiday dinner. And gosh, I mean, I would say it's probably 12 or 15 years now since I've been back to Alabama. And I think I gravitated towards places that were more progressive in the way that people think. And I think that really shaped me as almost growing up in a certain mindset it gave me the curiosity to expand beyond that mindset. And so a lot of those learnings took place at my time at Bumble, and I'm so grateful for everything that I was able to learn as we were building, like fast and furiously building a startup, and building a culture that was really around not only empowering women, but leveling the playing field and truly promoting equality. And so that, I think, like I said, I think that that really shaped, that background really shaped how I got there, and what motivated me and inspired me to learn quickly. And then how my personal journey got me to Asteya. I had while I was at Bumble, I was traveling a lot. I was the chief brand officer and had been there from the beginning. I was the third hire. And so I traveled constantly, be it for events and press, to making sure that our culture, like every satellite office, that our teams felt inspired and connected to the vision and mission of the company. And so I was, or we would have marketing opportunities or initiatives. So I was constantly on the road and traveling probably 3 to 4 times a week on long flights, and ended up with a chronic health condition that I've had for years, for about a decade at that point. I had a really bad, what they call like flare up of fibromyalgia, and was having a difficult time really like functioning. I was in pain from my head to my toes, and struggling. It was hard. I was at one point, when I actually went on medical leave, was limping and thought I was going to need a cane. And Bumble was incredibly supportive of me and in regards to giving me medical leave. And so I was able to take 3 months to what we called power heal. And in that time, what became really clear to me was the fact that, people don't put their health first. It tends to be something that we focus on when it's too late. You're trying to buy back or gain back your health in some way. And we don't do preventative measures enough. And so I realized while I was out on medical leave, that I really wanted to do something that was wellness based, that would help more people in their journey and in their healing journey, and more people in their journey to protect themselves and prevent themselves from ever being in a situation where where their health was compromised. And so I got back, and I was actually working in, I was studying yoga and Ayurveda and working with traditional Chinese medicine doctors in Thailand, and came back and decided to start looking for an opportunity to help people in the wellness space. And I met my business partners, and they had been building, previously for 2 years at that point, building on top of this, of an insurance company. They've been building an InsurTech initiative to make disability insurance, which we have totally reimagined into income insurance, but to make income insurance affordable and accessible to everybody through technology, through making it a process that takes minutes to get from quote to policy, versus taking what is usually 30 to 90 days. And I realized that if you don't have financial security, you cannot take care of your health. And I was very privileged in the fact that I was given the chance to have support to take care of my health, but really want to help more people have access to that opportunity to protect their finances. Because if you're focused on paying your bills, or if you're focused on, trying to survive, trying to put food on the table, how can you even focus on getting well and focus on your health?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely agree with you. People just don't put their health first until it's a need to have, and it's a little bit more reactive. And I definitely also agree with your point in terms of financial well-being, and wellness is also directly related to your general like bodily health and wellness too. And you mentioned income insurance as well. Can we just like define for our audience, maybe if those who aren't familiar, what is disability or income insurance?
So income insurance is essentially, it is a policy that if something happens to your health, and there are various tiers of what that means. So if it could be, catastrophic, meaning that something happens where you are no longer able to work in your particular job, we would then pay out a one-time payment of that would supplement your income. So essentially, let me break it down even more simply for that. Income insurance, it supplements your income if you are no longer able to work and need to take time to take care of yourself. So in joining this company, and what we want to do is, as I said, like our mission is to make this product affordable and accessible to every single person. And that means at, whatever income bracket, at whatever your profession is, and to make it more cost effective for women, because women historically pay more for income insurance. And so we really are reimagining the entire approach to this, from the digital side to how we want this to be a product that impacts people. And so basically what income insurance does is, if you need to take time off of work, we subsidize your income. And it's something that I think is one of the most, when I heard of it, and this is really honest, and it's almost embarrassing, but I've run into so many, wonderfully educated people who have had the same sort of moment where, a lot of people aren't even aware that this product exists, and that it's something that's available to people. And so when I first heard of it, I wasn't fully aware of what it was, but I realized that it's what I would have needed a form of it in order to take medical leave, had that not been offered. And it's something that, to me, is arguably the most important insurance product that you can buy for yourself. Because if you don't have any sort of income protection, how can you pay for any of the other insurance products? How can you pay for your car payment, your home payment, what have you? You can't really pay for them if you end up, in a financial crisis. And health complications are the main reasons for foreclosures and bankruptcies for people.
Wow, that is, I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't really that aware of the topic, or, that this is something that people need to do research on, and it is something that is helpful to employees as well. So definitely feel like the product and the service that you're providing to people is so important, especially around that education piece. And wanted to ask too, as the leader of the company, in your opinion, like what resources can employees or teams look to learn more about income insurance, and know like what options are out there and things like that?
It's a great question, because it's really there. It is one of those products that I think, what I'm so excited about, and what we are so excited about as a team, is really educating people on it. And so we are putting out resources on people can go to our blog and our website to learn more about income insurance. It's www.asteya.world. And we have an extensive FAQ section. And we really we're really passionate about educating people on this, because it is something that one of the most important aspects of wellness, which people don't talk about, is your financial wellness. And so we want this to be something that people are more aware of and understand the value in.
Yeah, absolutely. I was reading some of the blogs on your website as well, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm going to take this statistic and I'm going to talk about this with my also friends who also didn't know a lot about income insurance as well. So definitely think it's an important resource. And we've talked about this a little bit in terms of, if you're not you're not focusing on your financial well-being, how can you focus on your kind of health and the health of your family as well? Can you talk a little bit around your kind of philosophy around how financial health is related to your just general health?
So your financial health, I think, is crucial to your well-being. And what I love about our product and its offering is the fact that, unlike if you're paying for health insurance, that insurance policy is paying directly out to hospitals or what have you. If you end up needing to file a claim and need income insurance, that goes straight to you and you get to decide how to use it. But if you think about it, if you don't have your finances in order, how can you make any decisions that are, informed decisions to take care of your health? If you're suffering from diabetes, how can you have to be able to pay for your medication, not only your medication, but lifestyle choices. So we're talking, the ways to eat, that help combine with that. And we really do think about this. And one of our long-term goals is the holistic approach to wellness. And that's, not only and when I say holistic, I mean like the whole body. So that's like your mental, physical, and financial wellness is what I'm talking about. And what are the ways, not only to prevent, but if you end up going out on having an issue and having a health complication, how can you get back on your feet and back to work faster? Because, we're in a society now where a lot of people like to work and it fulfills them. And that's wonderful. And that's part of your wellness is, if something is driving you and motivating you, like, how can we get you back into a place where you are functioning, as the best version of yourself as fast as possible? But also, how can we prevent people from ever having to get into that situation? And to me, that's an awareness of not only your mental and physical health, but your financial well-being. And that protection is so important in keeping people in a situation where they can take care of their health. So, it costs minimal, for example, to meditate. There's all sorts of evidence and research that shows that meditation is incredible for your DNA, and it's incredible for, your mental health and focus. But maybe you want to take a course on meditation, and if you don't have your finances in order, how can you even think to do that? And so we're not only trying as a company to provide people with financial protection, but also help them with different options and different ways to take care of their mental and physical and financial health.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, to your point too, are looking for ways that they are being fulfilled in their jobs or spending so much time, whether it's in a virtual first environment or going back into the office, a hybrid approach. And a lot of companies are exploring ways to support the health and well-being of their employees. And we have a lot of perks and benefits, meditation, as you mentioned as well. And as you're building out your company too, in your experience, what are meaningful ways that employers can really provide benefits that protect and serve employees? And this can be related to life insurance or otherwise.
Sure. I think, part of our offering is the fact that this is not only can we offer this to individuals. Hold on, let me restart really fast. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big believer that employers should help empower employees financially, and in their physical and mental health. So I think that, one of the things in helping people, stay the best at their jobs is also providing them with resources around finances. And if that's, introducing them to classes or things that they can take on the side that help educate them so that they are protecting their future. That's everything from, startups expanding and providing 401ks to providing, opportunities like income insurance to employees. 51% of employers offer income insurance to their employees, which means that 49% of people who are employed by companies are not getting access to income insurance. And that's really where we come in we not only offer income insurance for employees, but we also offer it for individuals. And part of that is so important because it's not only talking about people within companies who may not have access to income insurance, or people who want to supplement their income insurance and have a better package for themselves, a better package of protection for themselves, but also freelancers, gig workers, people who usually would never have access to this product. That's part of what we are doing. But in terms of companies and what I think companies can do for their employees, I think one of the parts about how we have all worked remote over the past years that I think has become a point of frustration for people is the fact that there really is no turnoff anymore. You don't walk out of the office and get to kind of have that mental break. Your office is now in a lot of ways, people's offices. I know people are going back into the office, but people who are working remote, and a lot of our team is remote, you don't ever get the chance to fully turn off because your office is now your home. And so I think it's it's leaders being cognizant of that and really encouraging employees to turn off and enjoy themselves. And I think that a lot of that is, if you're a startup versus a larger corporation without the funds to, provide different tools or what have you to your employees, that I think that comes from radical communication and transparency. And I think that is constantly asking questions and checking in on your team and making sure that people feel like their well-being matters to a company. I mean, listen, especially in startups, like you're in high growth phases and things can be very stressful, but it is important for people to be able to turn off and at times, because I'm a big believer that the best ideas come when you're in the shower or when you're on a walk or whatever you're doing that is, outside of work. And how can you continue to challenge the status quo if you have no break to think outside the box and you have no break to engage with the world in some way to challenge your thinking. And so there are so many ways that employers can help their employees with their wellness. And I think some of that can be, as companies grow, providing stipends for, like if that's gyms, if that's, providing people with access to, various subscriptions that can help them take care of themselves, but or providing access to, meditations, as I've already mentioned, et cetera. I think there are so many ways to do that, but I think that the key focus is to not think of it as checking a box of like a culture box that this is done and like, yay for us, like pat ourselves on the back. We did something that like helps on paper, help our culture, but instead really listening to employees and finding out, where they are and encouraging managers to do that with their team members.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there are so many different avenues that one can go, but the important piece of, I think, what you shared too is really asking employees how to meet them where they are, what benefits would be helpful to them, really trying different things, and it's a dynamic strategy, and really not checking the box to say, okay, we're done, we have this benefit, so we are saying that we care about the wellness of the employee. It's always a two-way, ongoing, continuous conversation, which I definitely appreciate too. And also wanted to ask, in your kind of experience as well, what is a common kind of trend you're seeing in the tech industry that companies and individuals really need to be aware of in order to be successful in the future?
I will go back and add to what you were saying really quickly. I think that I agree with that. And when you talk about like checking a culture box, like the more that you can engage with your employees and if you're a manager, like the more you can engage with your direct reports and the more that people can feel seen and heard and genuinely seen and heard, the better output you're going to have from employees. And I've seen that from what we're building now and from my time at Bumble, that if you can like be, I've always been a big believer in leading with vulnerability.
Yeah.
And being open and allowing people to bring their whole selves to work, because I think especially, when you're talking about user experience or customer journeys or marketing, for example, all of these things, if you're able to think through your own personal experiences and feel empowered in doing that, then you're going to create better products and better experiences for people. But I do believe that if you can engage with people on a human level, it creates so much more trust and buy-in from employees. So if an employee feels bought into what you're doing and feels valued, they're going to perform better and you're going to have a better experience. And if that means that they take a little, like, an extra hour here or there to see family or do something that recharges them, they're going to come back more invigorated and more grateful to be a part of your company than if you stifle them.
Yeah, I think that is really important. And especially the piece around leading with vulnerability and empathy, and really building trusting relationships with people. That's how you do it in any relationship. So with people who are joining your team or who have been on the team for a while, it is something that doesn't just happen. You continuously work on it. Is there anything else that you think that companies and organizations need to hone in on in their strategy to be successful in the future, whether it's offering these kind of benefits that we're talking about or anything in your experience that you're seeing shift the future of work?
Sure. Asking, especially what I love about startups is as empowering employees also to help define the company culture. Because I believe company culture starts from the first 10 team members and is something that expands from there. And so I think it's asking questions and being okay with not knowing all of the answers and allowing other people, like just listening and hearing other people's points of view, I think is really important. And I think that, yeah, that basically to me, the more that you can, build that trust and rapport. I mean, we spend more time with a lot of times with the people that we work with than we do with anybody else in our lives. So having it be an enjoyable experience for everybody across the board, even if it is high stress, is so important, because that, we always said this at Bumble, that you become like the 5 people you surround yourself with. And so it is important that in those working relationships, you're building healthy bonds that actually empower one another and creating a sense of community where people feel like they can enjoy coming to work and being a part of a team.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And it's like your sphere of influence, right? The 5 people that you spend the most time with, like what you're spending your time doing in terms of your job as well. And that goes back to the piece of people want to be fulfilled in their different roles and opportunities and feel like they're empowered by their manager and people who are around them. I'm sure that you have many of these kind of learning moments or key insights, but what is something that you have learned in your experience as an entrepreneur?
Something that I've learned in my experience as an entrepreneur. Oh, that's a great question. For sure. Of course I have learnings and failures. And I think that's, I think failures are great opportunities to learn. I think that, and I can talk about a lot of this because, we were a really high growth company. And I think that part of like an example of, learnings that I've had is really essentially listening to people and listening to employees and not assuming. I guess the easiest way to phrase that is not assuming that because you're okay and you're doing good and everything, and like, let's say as a manager, your life's going well, you're content, you're happy with your job, not assuming that is the case for every single person. And that's why I think that transparency and open levels of communication is very important. And I think that encouraging people to speak up, I think that, the dynamics of leaders, it's important to create a space where people feel like they can be honest with you, instead of making it, I think a lot of times you can be surrounded by yes, like you not intentionally on anybody's fault, but people can end up in situations where they're surrounded by like a yes culture, where people don't challenge leaders and or don't feel comfortable like speaking their mind or speaking their truth. And I think that is that's something that you have to really actively promote, is that ability for anybody to speak up, whether it's an idea that's an incredible idea that could come from anywhere in the company, but giving people the ground floor to really speak their minds, or if that's, somebody feeling okay saying that they're not doing okay in that moment. Because I think that if people feel like they cannot openly express that, then you run into a risk of like a burnout culture.
Yeah, you never want to assume how someone else is feeling. And always, I think it goes back to that common thread of having a conversation when you're asking how someone is doing, really making sure you're getting specific and really waiting for their answer and having a conversation if the answer is not good or okay, and really building that trust, especially as a leader, and modeling that is so important. So I think that is a great answer. Another question, and this can be related to anything as well, is in terms of what is something that might keep you up at night?
Oh, that's a great question. Hold on, I will say one more thing, because you brought up another point that reminded me of this. One thing that I learned at my time at Bumble was we always talked about the golden rule, which is, it sounds very childlike to mention this, but it is important. We would talk about do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And then I cannot remember where or when, but someone presented the platinum rule to us, which was do unto others as they would have you do unto them. And
Mhm.
it changed my thinking in the way of approaching, we can't, it's exactly what we're saying. You can't assume that what works for me works for somebody else. And it's finding out what works for them and helping support that. What keeps me up at night? Gosh, that's such a good question. So much. I think, you could probably gather, I'm big on employees being happy and fulfilled, because I think that drives motivation, and that in turn drives growth. And everything that you're going for within meeting your goals in a company. I think that would be one of the main things that keeps me up at night. And I think, I really do strive to to do the right thing, like the right thing morally and ethically. And I think sometimes to a fault, I'm overly conscientious. And I think those are the things that would keep me up at night the most, is making sure that, every decision is thought through appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of ethical leadership, and just like the fact that you're thinking about all of these things really speaks to the kind of leader and entrepreneur that you are, and just the service and product that Asteya is putting out into the world as well, is a testament to that too. So I think that definitely makes sense. I always like to ask this question also before we close out our time together. Is there either anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share with our listeners, or a key takeaway you'd like to emphasize for our audience?
Sure. Let me think. I'm thinking I would love to bring it back to Asteya's mission
Yes.
and vision. So I'm just thinking of, I know that I voiced a lot of it in the beginning, but I do want to make sure. Do you feel that it was all at like the educational component was concise?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay. I can give you a little bit of the background and meaning of Asteya. And that was something that my business partners and I landed on the name, because it's actually tattooed on my wrist. I had it tattooed on my wrist the day that I left Bumble. It just was it was a moment. It was a beautiful, I had a really lovely departure from Bumble. I'm really grateful for that. And I ended up going and getting this tattoo because I'd been wanting it. And I was like, I have some free time. So I got this tattoo, and that sounds really, really silly. Okay, let me start over. I can tell you the meaning of Asteya, which we haven't discussed yet. So my business partners and I landed on it after one of them actually asked me about the tattoo on my wrist, and it's the tattoo on my wrist is the Sanskrit version of Asteya. And it's one of the virtues of the yogic philosophy. And it means non-stealing, and it means not taking more than you need or deserve from the earth, from others, or from yourself. And I found that to be one of the most pure ways to define boundaries and an approach to living that does no harm, but helps others and also helps yourself. And that really defines, what we're trying to do with Asteya is, is protecting your future so you don't steal from the life that you're building for yourself. And that's where income insurance comes in. It's not stealing. It's not stealing. You steal from today and this moment right now if you're constantly worrying about tomorrow. And that's why we wanted to provide people with a financial safety net, so that you have some, peace of mind and feeling of comfort as you're going out there and achieving, your goals and dreams and success, that you have something that you can fall back on should the going get rough.
Yeah, I think that is so important to reiterate. Protect your future, and you do that with a financial safety net and by really educating yourself about things like income insurance and what Asteya has to offer as well. I think the stat that you provided earlier, around 49% of companies not providing this, is really big. So I definitely appreciate the work that you are doing and your team is doing. And thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me, and we really appreciate you supporting Asteya and giving us a platform to speak about it. We're very excited about this company. I'm very passionate about it. And so it means a great deal.
Yes, I'm excited to see the growth. It was so good to speak with you, Alexandra. And for folks who are listening, as a reminder, All Voices believes in the empowerment of everyone to speak up, and we think it's a requirement for the company to succeed. Have a good rest of your afternoon, everyone.